Coming up, Villains Land could be seeing changes. Allegiant Airlines partners with Dollywood, and we discuss why Disney World always feels crowded. It's time to cue the mats. Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Cue the Mats. I am your host Matt Dobrovolsky, joined as always by my lovely and talented co-host Matt Rogers.
What a personality.
I know. I don't know why I always say lovely and talented, but it works. It works for you.
Okay, so
I know, you
just so
still need
everyone
your coffee.
just so everyone knows, I am very delirious and tired. Sleep
you
has
got
been
your coffee,
it's empty.
Oh, it's empty.
Yes.
Do you need me to go get you some caffeine?
No, but whatever. Okay, so we got a lot to discuss. There was a recent TikTok video that came out, and it was discussing some things about Disney World. We'll get into that later, but we're just going to kind of respond to that.
Yeah.
By some dude on TikTok. But we'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah, we'll be talking about that as our main topic of discussion.
But Matt has a book of topics that we're going to try and talk about and condense into 1 hour, so let's go.
Let's get going. So we'll jump right into our first news story that I want to talk about. Villains Land could potentially be changing over at the Magic Kingdom. It's been reported online. What? What are you laughing about?
So my first impressions of this, okay, is like, well, you go read the thing.
Okay. So it's being reported that if you follow the site Touring Plans, Len Testa, who is a big name in the Disney social media universe, he's reporting that the initial creative plans for Villains Land at the Magic Kingdom have been scrapped, and Imagineering is now being directed to develop, quote, bigger and bolder concepts for this project. The comment is coming about from the next CEO, Josh D'Amaro. And I find this very interesting because we're also going to kind of talk about this too with Josh's recent comments too about the updates coming to Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run. But Len Testa is quoted by saying, the gist of it is, quote, I understand that WDI's pitch was not big or bold enough for this land. I don't know if that original pitch was designed to hit some earlier specified budget someone had in mind, or they were doing value engineering before anyone told them to. I do get the sense that the think bigger happened late last year or earlier this year. This is suggesting the creative reset may have started before Josh had formally become CEO, although Len is acknowledging the uncertainty about that. But what he's hearing is that the coaster that was planned for the land, that you can see in the original concept, is still being plussed. It will still be a coaster, but it will be, quote, elevated. The indoor ride was likely to be conceived as a runaway railway scale styled attraction. However, management is now reportedly pushing for something closer to Rise of the Resistance. And then in terms of dining and entertainment, think bigger. So, honestly, I don't really know how true this is. Obviously, this is a rumor, but
I believe it. You know why?
Why?
Have you seen the effort? So there's basically two Imagineering teams. There's domestic and there's international. Okay? Have you seen what Imagineering on the international parks has been putting out versus what we get domestically?
Oh, 100%. If you take a look at Fantasy Springs or anything in Tokyo for that matter.
I mean, people have been complaining about it domestically for a long time. So, assuming some of the things we said on this podcast are true, Tomorrow's being throttled by Iger and the rest of the board on what they're allowed to do domestically. And now there's going to be a new leadership shakeup. Maybe this is the first kind of result of that is like, hey...
And that's the thing. Len is saying that the uncertainty is there of, did this happen before Josh became CEO? Or is this happening in the last couple of days when they announced him as CEO?
Well, I recall in a previous shareholder call, there was a question asked or something like this where it was like, what is Disney's response to Epic Universe going to be? And the response was, this is why we've been building things like Cosmic Rewind and Tron and Galaxy's Edge. And it's like, no, those are things that have already opened. What's the response going to be? So maybe this is kind of going to be the response at this point. Maybe it's finally being looked at like, no, hey, we actually need to really do something.
A lot of people thought that when Josh did announce this at D23 about Villains Land, we said, this is Disney's response to Dark Universe. But is this going to truly appeal to us the way Dark Universe is to the theme park community?
I have a very specific vision of what Villains Land should look like, and I think everyone kind of does. And I hope Disney realizes that this is an expectation that they need to live up to when they execute this land.
No, 100%. Because it's, like you said earlier, I think people are starting to realize the true quality that we see at the parks overseas. I see a lot of people, complaining that, Imagineering just doesn't know how to do rides anymore. I'm like, that is 100% false. They know how to do everything.
They just do it on a cheap here.
They're constrained by the budget that they have in the domestic parks. Whereas if you look at Tokyo, who is run by Oriental Land Company walks up to Imagineering that says, hi, we want to do a brand new Space Mountain. What can you guys give us? A couple of months later, Imagineering comes in and says, this is what we can do. This is how much it's going to cost. Oriental Land Company says, perfect, let's do it.
All right, so
if that was the domestic parks, the same thing would have happened. They would have said, hey, we want to do a new Space Mountain. Okay, well, here's our idea. Cool, how much is it? $80 million. Well, can we knock about $30 million off of that? But that's what I feel like that's what happens.
So
here's getting more evident.
Here's a good early 2000s domestic parks Imagineering story. There was a really popular franchise starting at this time, movie and book franchise called Harry Potter. Mm-hmm. Okay? And the author, whatever opinion you may have about her, it's probably justified, but the author of these books was interested in doing a theme park license. And the two big players in this were Disney and Universal. Now, Disney is honestly the big name, so... some conversations.
She did go to Disney first.
Yeah, some conversations happened, and all Disney Imagineering wanted to do was a little small themed area. Okay? And a boat ride. And a spinner attraction like Dumbo. And do you know what the concept name for this ride was going to be? The spinner ride? I kid you not.
You told me this.
Dumbledore.
It was going to be a tackier version of the Harry Potter name.
And
I think that was something that...
And when you read the books, and when you see the movies, the audience has such a high expectation of what this land should be, what this world should be.
Right.
And I'm so glad, in the end, Universal got it.
Right.
Because they let J.K. have the creative control over it that
Universal
Disney
went for the immersive environment. They wanted you to be able to see Hogwarts. They wanted you to be in the story with Harry. And that was truly the first immersive land for a theme park, and that's what started changing a lot of things. Because before that, you're right, it was just this...
Disney Imagineering in this circumstance, they just didn't care, it seems.
Right.
So, and that's kind of what we see domestically.
But what was what immersive lands did we truly have before that? You had this world of a land of fantasy that you could step in and, you know, go into these stories with Peter Pan.
But it wasn't like one IP.
It wasn't immersive.
Well, I mean, I'm not talking specifically immersive worlds. I'm talking about overall execution of Imagineering at this time, because this is right around the time California Adventure.
This was still
opened.
the Paul Pressler era,
And
when the parks were kind of.
But like, look at California Adventure 1.0. What were they thinking? It was
done on the cheap end.
Look at Hollywood Studios in the 2000s. Like, what was going on with that park?
Because let's remember, California Adventure just celebrated its 25th anniversary, so 2001, February of 2001. What was also opening at that exact same time period? Tokyo Disney Sea. It's a perfect example of what happens when you do things on the cheap end versus sacrificing the money for the quality.
So hopefully, at long last, when it comes to executing park projects, Imagineering might be getting a little bit better. Cosmic Rewind, a great step forward.
100%.
Okay, Tron, Rise of the Resistance, great step forward. Runaway Railway,
when it works.
Runaway Railway, really fantastic.
Yeah. We are getting better, and I fully
Toy Story Land.
Uh,
What happened?
No, my biggest thing I always said with Toy Story Land is, why didn't we design this for Florida?
It's very much a mixed effort. Well, part of me is convinced the only reason Rise of the Resistance, Galaxy's Edge is as good as it is because it was going into Disneyland.
Well, yeah. I mean, basically, whenever it's a clone thing coming from Disneyland, it's going to be pretty good.
That doesn't explain Cosmic Rewind. I think
I will say this: we are learning. We are learning in terms of the quality, and I hope we can see that truly with Villains. This statement, this potential rumor, just fans the flames that I think they are dreaming bigger, and it doesn't seem like they're afraid of spending the money.
Shake it up, Betty.
Shake it up, Betty. Do you think that this might also delay it a little bit too? Because we've seen them starting the construction on Piston Peak, but they haven't started truly anything with Villains. But then again, they're still clearing the land. So.
Don't get me started on Disney and the pace they build rides.
But honestly,
could it possibly be any farther out than it already is?
Have you seen how quickly Tropical Americas is going up over these last 2 weeks alone?
I'm a very big fan when it comes to these theme park construction projects. Okay, these rethemes, what the parks are doing next. I always look at the facts, and the facts are in a form of history, right? What has been done previously. Okay, and I said this about the Dinosaur to Indiana Jones conversion. If you want to know the kind of effort they're going to put into that, look at what they did to Splash to Tiana's, the test track refurb, and that's probably about the level they're doing, right? When I say when a new attraction is going to open, I say look at the history. Look at how long it took from the announcement of Pandora to the time it opened, the announcement of Galaxy's Edge to the time it opened, the announcement of Tron until the time it opened, right? So, that being said, I have my eye on the Encanto ride because that does seem to be going up a lot faster, and also the land clearing around Villains is going pretty quick too, and I think that's interesting, and you should keep your eye on that because this might be a change of pace. I'm not going to sit here and assume anything yet, but it's just kind of interesting to look at.
I've talked about it plenty of times on the podcast. I don't foresee this thing opening next year. We've talked about it. Encanto. I foresee Indiana Jones being ready. I foresee the Carousel. I foresee the new restaurant that'll take over Restaurantosaurus. Majority of the land will be ready, but I don't see Encanto for 2028.
The Encanto building has started going up very quickly.
And that's why I'm saying, prove me wrong, Disney. Prove me wrong.
Because once you get the shell over that building for Encanto,
and it looks like it. I mean, the roof is coming along.
Once you get the roof and the walls in, and you get some electrical infrastructure in there, you now have access control and you can get your contractors in very quickly to do the work they need to do. It has potential to open late next year, I think.
And it'll be interesting to see then, too, when it comes to the Monsters Inc. coaster, and then Piston Peak and Villains Land.
Now, if in 6 months the Monsters Inc. ride starts getting thrown up really quickly...
I mean, it looks like the foundation is...
That it will be very interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on to our next news story, and I thought you'd find this interesting. I'm surprised that I didn't get like a text message from you.
Is your volume turned down?
Yes, my volume is turned down on the phone.
We just had to edit out a big screaming phone.
Well, because
TikTok.
my phone decided to start playing a video for some reason. Allegiant Airlines has announced that they are turning an ordinary flight to Tennessee into a full-blown Dolly Parton-themed experience with the launch of Flight 9 to 5. So on Friday, November 6th, travelers that are departing from Orlando Sanford Airport to Knoxville's Tyson Airport will be boarding a first-of-its-kind Dollywood-themed flight, kicking off their Smoky Mountain getaway before they even land. From the moment the passengers arrive at the gate, Flight 9 to 5, I really hope all my Dolly Parton fans out there understand that reference, promises a celebration. They are teaming up for gate festivities, live entertainment, an in-flight trivia contest, exclusive themed merchandise, and specialty food and drinks. 9 to 5 will depart on that day and head up to the Smoky Mountains. Guests will also be able to experience Night Flight Expedition, the new immersive indoor adventure coaster that is debuting this spring. And they will also be receiving a special lodging package at the Dreammore Resort and Spa, or Dollywood's Heartsong Lodge and Resort. It will offer them 25% off each night, a $100 credit for food and beverage or merchandise at the resorts, as well as 2 Dollywood tickets, complimentary time savers, and trolley transportation to the park. Look, the fact that this is only one day kind of lends me to believe that this is like a test. What if that Allegiant Airlines could be looking into something like this to attract the many theme park lovers that are here in Central Florida to fly up to Tennessee and have a Dollywood experience? Because could you imagine, like, it's a package deal and everything. They'll fly you up there and everything, and then they'll get you over to Dollywood. You'll get tickets, you'll get hotel, all this kind of stuff.
I'm not going to lie. I have zero comment on this.
Why? You're the one that wants to go to Dollywood, too. Would you do something like this?
Yeah, but that's a lot of Dolly Parton.
That's a lot of Dolly. You can't have too much Dolly Parton in there.
But
more importantly, the park in general, especially as they're talking about that you're going to have what did I say it was called? The Night Expedition? You're going to have exclusive...
Night Flight Expedition. The Mock Rides Rocking Boat.
You're going to have exclusive ride time with that since it'll have just recently opened. So I think...
Have you seen how... Do you have any idea how immersive this ride is supposed to be and how detailed it's going to be and how highly themed it's going to be?
I saw a construction photo of inside the show building, and this thing is massive.
Yeah, and they're building it within like a year.
That's crazy.
A year and a half.
I mean, SeaWorld also does that too. If you
no, this
is bigger than anything SeaWorld's really done.
But this is a once in a while, Dollywood, Silver Dollar City, that whole Hershey company, they put out a really quality themed ride that rivals some of the Disney stuff once in a while, and they throw it up fast.
And when we talked about it when we announced this attraction, I'll go up there for this. I really want to go. It's going to
be interesting.
Yeah. I'll go up there for a quick weekend getaway, if anything.
I don't know. The flight doesn't mean that much to me one way or the other. So.
But I mean, like, if they're doing this sort of a partnership where they could easily start selling these package deals to people down here in Orlando saying, hey, for, I don't even know how much this has ended up costing, like, for $600 per person round trip, we'll fly you up to Dollywood. We'll transport you over to the park. We'll give you tickets.
It's a way to get more people into the park.
Yeah, I think I think it could be a very successful thing for them. All right, we're going to move on to our big topic of the week. I sent this over to you a couple of days ago, and because I really found this TikTok video interesting. It's all about why Disney World always feels crowded. So I do want to give credit to the TikToker that did post this. He is nicknamed Explorer. The handle is at AB&Explorer.
But what's his name?
What's his name?
We don't know. But thank you for making the video that we are now going to commentate on, because there's some interesting points.
There's some interesting points that he raises. There's some interesting things that we disagree with. And
that comes from our experience in the parks, and well, I'll say my experience in the parks. But we'll get to that. As we cover the topics.
He did break this up into parts, so we're going to talk about each part individually.
Part one.
So basically, the first thing that he talks about is pre-COVID. There were just random days where you could walk into the Magic Kingdom and it was truly dead when you looked at the wait times. Like, it'd be 15 minutes for Haunted Mansion, it'd be 20 minutes for Pirates of the Caribbean. I disagree with that notion just towards the end of the 2010s, and that was mainly because of lightning lanes, but we can talk about that in a little bit. But one of the things that he talks about is how these COVID restrictions that we're still kind of reeling with are impacting the parks. Primarily, the reservation system. Okay? He talks about how one of the things that that Disney was looking into with the reservations was being able to staff accordingly. Mainly, they could determine how many people were truly going to the parks on a given day and staff the parks accordingly. If they could see that the attendance was going to be low, then they could staff accordingly. If the park was calling for higher attendance, even just a month out, then they could say, oh, okay, let's start ramping up the staffing numbers that we need to have today. Personally, I disagree with this notion. I've always said that was how we were doing this stuff when we reopened from COVID. That is no longer the case. It is very evident that...
I can tell you, I don't disagree with it. I can tell you that's just not what's happening.
Exactly. You can still see that staffing is somewhat normal, but perhaps maybe the staffing could be lightened up day of, whether that comes to asking a cast member if they want to go home early or something like that.
And the opposite, there would be overtime shifts to pick up.
Correct, yeah. They could say, busier. Oh, well, we are trending a little bit more upward or something like that today.
So the week of, they can issue some overtime shifts with reasonable confidence that on a particular day of that week, it'll be a lot heavier crowds.
But, yeah. I don't see them managing the attendance truly anymore.
No, I can tell you when it comes to the number of ride vehicles operating on the rides, for example.
Yes, he does talk about this in terms of, oh, well, if they're trending lower, then they can have less trains on Expedition Everest, have less vehicles on Rise of the Resistance. That is never the case. That is never the case, coming from two people that worked in attractions for a couple of years.
Yeah, and I can tell you... that, when I was working at Kilimanjaro Safaris post-COVID, and even to this day, they run with 40 trucks. That's their goal, run all the trucks.
Right.
I can tell you, Seven Doors Mine Train, they run 5 trains. Cosmic Rewind, they run 8 or 9. And The only ride I know where they don't run at max capacity is Space Mountain on the ADA or wheelchair accessible side of that ride. They run less vehicles, so that way they don't cascade.
That's on the Omega side, if
I don't remember. Yeah, it's the one on the right.
Never worked Space Mountain. So.
But they run less vehicles on that side typically. That way they don't cascade and cause a downtime as easy.
Disneyland is just like that too.
Yeah, they run everything.
They have to bolt those trains out quickly enough because if they cascade, it shuts the whole ride down.
Right, and then when we're talking about staffing, buses was a great example that was mentioned. The way their bus dispatch system works right now is very fluid. So if there's heavier demand going with one particular route, they'll send more buses to that route, take some from other routes, etc. They'll move things around. Skyliner, while it did replace the guest usage of buses between the parks and the hotels it connects, those buses and the staff for those buses are still there because they are utilized when Skyliner has a downtime, when it is not operating.
But I will,
and I can tell you this for a fact because job reveal, because I'm no longer there. I was a technical supervisor at the Skyliner,
right?
So whenever we would have a downtime, buses would be called up. So
and
you might,
that's very evident.
So you might,
does happen,
so you might,
especially
see,
in the summer when they have the shutdown.
So you might see at Hollywood Studios and Epcot in the bus loops, there's typically bus greeters, like bus drivers standing out in the bus loop being greeters, directing guests where to go, etc., helping out. Those are the bus drivers that are dispatched when Skyliner goes down. They have their buses parked over yonder.
But I will say this. It is very evident that if you look at something like Caribbean Beach, which is the Skyliner hub, if you look at Caribbean Beach 2015, that resort didn't really change other than the addition of Riviera. But Riviera has its own separate bus stops and everything like that. Caribbean Beach, if you went to the bus stop there in 2015 trying to hop on a bus to Epcot, fairly simple, right? Probably 3, maybe 4 buses on that route, especially in the morning.
There would be more than that. But now
there's
at peak times,
0 buses, unless the Skyliner is down. There are 0 buses. If the Skyliner is down, then they will obviously start running buses.
But those buses are...
But now all those people that would have been on those buses are on the Skyliner.
Yes, but those buses and those drivers are still being utilized, potentially on other routes, or they're on standby for Skyliner. The buses are still there, and the drivers are still being paid.
Right.
Like it's the same amount of drivers.
I'm not talking about staffing-wise. I'm talking about it from the guest perspective.
Right.
I'm talking about it from those people still have to be moved somewhere to the Skyliner in this case.
Now, the money that's saved is potentially having those buses on standby. They're not running and consuming fuel.
True.
That is where the money is saved.
It's not like they moved these buses elsewhere. Another thing that he talks about is if you take a look at something like a bus that would take you to the Grand Floridian in Polynesian. First off, as far as I can remember, these buses have always been combined. So if you were trying to get from Hollywood Studios to the Grand Floridian, you had to hop onto a bus that would take you to the Grand Floridian, but also the Polynesian. Now, DVC is a factor into this. Those buses now feel a lot more congested because of the addition of the villas at the Grand Floridian and the Island Tower at the Polynesian. So these bus routes could be a little bit more guest heavy because of those additions, but they probably, more than likely, it's very evident actually, that they really didn't add more buses to these routes.
They did something. Bendy buses.
But
the longer buses.
Those bus routes, though. Usually, I don't know about you, I usually see those buses on the value resort routes. All Stars, Pop.
The higher capacity
because
resorts.
Those are higher capacity. But in turn, Polynesian has increased its capacity, I would say about 40%, maybe even closer to 50%, with the addition of the Island Tower. Grand Floridian has certainly increased its capacity with the addition of the villas. Contemporary even did it too back in the day when they added Bay Lake Tower.
Now, we all know the monorail's bursting at the seams at what it can perform at.
Exactly. I mean, I've always said the monorail is in dire need of a refurb, but it's going to be extremely costly, mainly because the company that built those doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, they are.
Bombardier?
Yeah, they're around.
They're still around? I thought I remember Bob Gurd talking about the fact that they don't exist anymore.
They build planes. Maybe.
Yeah, but they don't really build the monorails though anymore.
It was a custom project. So the interesting thing about the monorail project, the monorail is really an interesting problem, right? So we've seen over the past few years they've been throwing money at these old trains, doing significant refurbs and upgrades to them to try and get these 40-year-old trains to last even longer.
God, that's right, they are 40 years old.
And it's kind of nuts because what really needs to happen... So, for example, there's a lot of guests that come to Magic Kingdom from a Magic Kingdom monorail resort or from the parking lot that use the monorails that may have wheelchairs, strollers, right? So if you look at the current trains, there is a step up, right? Now, to assist with this, there is usually 1 or 2 cast members on each platform moving ramps around, trying to help wheelchair, scooter users, whatever, in and out of the trains. But this slows down the loading and unloading process, yeah. Right? So,
whereas you take a look at something like the automated people mover at Orlando Airport, those things come in right
it's
there.
It's a zero entry.
Yeah.
This is a very big issue because you're like, oh, just get new trains. Well, if we get new trains,
you may have to lower the track a little bit.
You can't lower the track. You'd have to raise the platforms.
Because...
Now, the other issue is the door design on these trains. The doors go slightly below the floor. Mm-hmm. So you can't have a zero entry on these trains. So you need to have new trains with a new door design. You need to have a raised platform. You need to raise the platform. And then the issue is, okay, that's fine. Well, the ramps going in and out of the monorail stations are already not ADA compliant because they predate ADA.
Right.
That's why they feel like such a steep incline, especially if you are a wheelchair user, you know what I'm talking about. Going up and down those ramps is really hard because they don't have the landing in the middle of them. They're not ADA compliant. So they have to re-engineer the ramp entry and exit ways to every monorail station. And it's not just a matter of just get new trains. It's like, no, we need new trains. We need to rebuild the stations. It's a massive thing. And that's why you see Disney just throwing money at this old fleet of trains to hobble it along as far as they can.
Right.
But eventually, this is going to have to be addressed. It has to.
Because let's take a look at...
Or there has to be an alternate means of transportation.
Yes.
And
Skyliner kind of...
people wonder... But people have wondered, why isn't the monorail expanded? Why don't they expand the monorail in the future?
It's extremely costly.
But this is one of the reasons. It's not just costly. It's not.
It's an operational nightmare.
You can't just expand the current monorail because whatever you design now is going to be very different from the current monorail. It's a very big issue.
One of the things that I wanted to say was that let's take when we went to the park as kids. I don't remember monorail lines being this long back in those days. Okay? Because now you look today, and it's pretty common to, if you're coming in first thing in the morning, you're going to be waiting 3, maybe 4 monorails before you get up to the platform to board your train. And it's because of these capacity issues that they need to address with the monorail. They need to address it much sooner rather than later because of all this expansion effort that you're doing to the parks as well. One of the other things that he was talking about, nice segue into this, is attraction capacity too. One of the things, and I think we're going to have a nice heated debate about this, take a look at the Magic Kingdom. We have a vacant attraction sitting there, Stitch's Great Escape. I'll bet it was a horrible attraction. It needed to go. Sorry. I am a Stitch lover. It just didn't bode well with the guest experience. But
there's a reason why a lot of the shows weren't full in that attraction.
Well, yes. I mean,
it wasn't.
It did scar a lot of kids.
It wasn't a people pooler. That was the thing.
But here's my thing. On a busy day, that attraction could pull 1,700 people an hour. And now it is just sitting there empty. All those people that would have been in there on a busy day, they are now elsewhere in the park.
Mostly at Tron.
But, you know, and this is where he talks about it, is that these people would be in lines for these attractions that aren't there anymore. But yes, Tron has a capacity, I don't know its true numbers, but I would say low 1,000s an hour.
I think 12 to 1,400. I think people are in line for Tron. The people who would be at Stitch, for example, if Stitch was doing full shows and had a queue, I think they're in line for Tron. I also think they're in line for People Mover.
Oh, 100%. Because, I mean, look at People Mover.
The People Mover queue
compare People Mover
is
to just
higher
10 years
now
ago.
than it was like 8 years ago.
Yeah. They also, I've always said something's going on with People Mover to the point where I remember back in the day where you could just basically have a continuously moving line going up there and boarding trains.
Oh, I can tell you exactly what it is.
But now it's like they have to stop you on the escalator every time.
There's
for like a 2 to 3 minute gap.
The issue is, and this is from someone I know who worked at Peter Pan. Peter Pan's ride system, it's really not meant to stop and go. And that ride system does not handle stop and go very well. And a lot of times when Peter Pan stops, it really doesn't like to start up again without any difficulty. So for the longest time, if there was a guest with a mobility issue coming up to Peter Pan, the cast members they were instructed to ask, like, hey, can you board this moving ride? We cannot stop it. And if you weren't able to do that, they wouldn't let you ride, or they would strongly encourage you not to ride.
I mean, granted, this was
but
1971.
Now, no, but this was as late. This was as late as 2019. They were doing this. 2018. They were doing this, and then around 2018 or so, they said, in order to be more accommodating, of course, because of the guest needs, they were like, if the guest asks to stop it, we have to stop and let them on and just hope for the best with the ride system. People Mover's kind of like that. So now you have more stops, which are holding up the line.
So do you think it's more along the lines of Disney is being more accommodating by saying, do you need us to stop this ride? So in this way you can board safely.
Yes, and also with cast member staffing, you have less full-time career operations cast members in the parks now than you did before.
Oh, 100%. We have
but these seasoned cast members who have been doing operations for a while, I was one of them. When I worked on the Mermaid ride, I could encourage an elderly lady in a wheelchair who could walk, just had issues walking. I was able to fully assist her onto the belt into the ride at full speed.
Dang.
That was because of my experience. Okay? And yes, it was safe and there were no risks taken. Okay? It's kind of difficult to explain, but because of my experience, I was able to do that without causing the ride to slow or stop. Mm-hmm. You had other seasoned operations cast members who were full-time, working in the parks for years on end, in attractions, that were able to operate rides like this. They're not there anymore.
Right. And I will agree with that. Remember my time in attractions. I would basically give you the lowdown if you were in a wheelchair of showing you, like, okay, you're going to be standing up right here for about 30 to 45 seconds, then you're going to walk over here and stand for about 30 seconds, and then you're going to head to your vehicle and sit down. Okay? Are you comfortable doing that, or would you like to bring your wheelchair the rest of the way? However, you'd see a lot of these, I mean, I'll just say it. I mean, it's a lot of just newbies in attractions. They're not seasoned attraction cast members like we are.
They don't have the mentoring. So, for example,
they go up and they just say, "Do you want to bring your wheelchair the rest of the way, or do you want to hop out now?"
They don't ask the right questions.
They don't ask the right questions.
So, a great example when I worked at Mermaid yet again. I've seen this as a guest going back to that ride. Guest gets on the load belt. They're taking their time getting into the show. Okay? And it's like, and the cast member slows it down. It's like, no, when I was a loader, when I was at the load position, I would be like, get in.
Yeah.
I wouldn't slow down. I'd just say, get in. So it's things like that. So all of this kind of added together, it makes a difference in the park operation.
Right. And I get it. If you don't know, Disney does have those, the 5 keys: safety, courtesy, inclusion, show efficiency. The efficiency is last there, so we should be nice to the guest over the efficiency.
Yes.
I do get that. To a point. When it's stuff like that, yes, I understand. We should be nice to the guests, let them take their time getting in. But at the same time, we also need to think about the other couple hundred guests that are in line.
The other thing that is daunting to think about, this scenario, this picture that I've painted, right? About who's working in the parks right now. These operations cast members that aren't that experienced happen. A lot of them are, for example, in a college program, who are in college pursuing a hospitality leadership degree, for example. And in some cases, and this isn't representative of everyone, this is just some things that may be happening, right? Some of the moving parts. So I don't want to paint a bad picture to everyone and be stereotypical. Right. But you'll have some circumstances where you have...
And really quick... Please note, we're not trying to be stereotypical of every single attractions cast.
No, this is a few circumstances that I've personally seen and experienced from my time in attractions. So you'll have someone on a college program who is pursuing a hospitality leadership degree. This college program job may be the first or second job they've ever had. Okay?
Yeah.
They do it for 6 months, and then they interview and get a professional internship, which might be an attractions leadership position. They are now making leadership decisions with minimal experience.
Correct.
They are making policy or having a part in making policy with little experience.
Because that's very evident when it comes to like the efficiency operations. Like, this is how I dealt with it, and it works, so let's do it for everyone. When you may be thinking to yourself, that's the way you did it, but we do it this way, and it actually works too.
But so this eventually makes its way into operational procedures, which slows things down.
Correct.
This is something that I have witnessed a handful of times from my times working in attractions, talking with people who work in attractions to this day. Yeah. This is something that happens once in a while.
But in getting back to kind of what we were mentioning with like just people taking their time getting onto these ride vehicles, we see that as guests. We see that as guests all the time. I'll never forget, I was in line for Haunted Mansion with a couple of friends, and we saw, it was like musical chairs of this family getting into their doom buggies. Oh, you're going to go sit with them. You're going to go sit with... Why didn't you guys decide this while you were just waiting in line getting up there?
What did the cast member load?
No. It wasn't a supervised children policy or anything.
No, but what did they say? Did they just tell them to get in?
No.
That
And that's a problem too, because guess what ended up happening? They got too close to the end of the platform in the loading area, and they stopped the ride. And one person went furious saying, could you just sit down? Because you've got a whole line of people behind you that are trying to get on the ride too.
And I will say, as someone who's done operations a lot, you do have situations like that where you just can't win.
Oh, right.
You're just like, nope, okay, you just gotta wait. Sometimes it happens, but it's being able to try. When you can avoid it, you avoid it. But you do have situations like that where you just have this crazy family who doesn't have it together, and you just got to admit defeat.
Right. And you see that a little bit more evident in attractions lately. When I worked Spaceship Earth way back in the day, they wanted us to start having a cast member right down there on the ramp as you head up to the loading area, reminding you that the vehicles will seat parties of 2 or small parties of 3. You know, like if it was mom, dad, and little Jimmy or whatever. Okay? But that could have been helping as well. And sometimes every time I ride Spaceship Earth, I never see that anymore. So you have people that are seasoned like us, like, yeah, I know Spaceship Earth sits 2 people. But what about this random family that's just coming in for their very first time and they don't know? And as soon as they get up to the loading area, oh, wait, how do we want to sit? I don't know. And now you could be holding up the entire line because we don't know how we need to sit, especially if we have a lot of kids, and we don't know the supervised children policy. It's something that plagues.
Also, one of the things I have seen periodically, and this isn't a new problem. People wait on ride vehicles. Ride vehicles do not wait on people.
100%. That is the one thing. When I was a trainer,
it is better.
I would tell that to people all the time.
It is better to send a ride vehicle empty and keep the ride moving than it is to stop it and wait for people to get in.
And a lot of people don't understand that. A lot of people don't understand that.
And I've seen this, and it's just like, nope, close the gates.
Think, oh, no, we got to wait. But think about it. An attraction runs like a clock. This is what I would tell my trainees. An attraction runs like a clock. Every single little gear and gadget inside a clock needs to be working in order for those hands to be turning to tell you time. Okay? If one of those little gears stops, it throws off the whole thing. So, we lend that argument of, well, what if the vehicles do wait for the people? Yeah, but then that could cascade the ride, and you're not getting people off in a timely manner.
In the specific circumstance of an Omnimover, like a ride like Haunted Mansion or Mermaid, if you miss a vehicle or two,
it's not going to hurt you.
That's fine, but every time you stop that ride, you lose at least 20 vehicles worth of people.
Exactly. That can really hurt you on something like that.
Yeah. So.
But getting back to what he was also talking about too, we talked about a little bit with Stitch's Great Escape. You have these things that are gone or they're just sitting empty. Perfect example, the Wonders of Life Pavilion over at Epcot. That huge, massive pavilion that could easily probably push through 2,000 to 3,000 people an hour with everything that they've got in there.
When did Wonders of Life open?
It opened in '89. So it was not an opening day pavilion, but it stuck around for a good couple of years into when Test Track and Mission Space eventually opened.
I know what the problem is. Okay. So when it comes to Stitch, for sure, that venue is in a really complicated situation. I've discussed this before. And it's the same thing with anything in Tomorrowland, asbestos.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And all these buildings are 50 plus years old.
And in order to... I fear what's going on with the Stitch venue right now with those theaters. That building is connected to cosmic rays. So either it's on the same ventilation system as cosmic rays or it's separate. I fear it's on the same ventilation system as cosmic rays, the same air conditioning system.
Mm-hmm.
Because they can't, if that is true, they cannot do anything with Stitch without closing Cosmic Rays, and Cosmic Rays is the backbone quick service of Magic Kingdom. It cannot close. Yeah. It cannot close.
Well, what about when Piston Peak and Villains Land eventually open, which would add more dining capacity?
What's on that side of the park?
Well, I mean, but I'm talking about Cosmic Rays just in general.
No, but Cosmic Rays, what quick service is on that side of the park?
Nothing right now, but what about when Piston Peak and Villains open?
On the Tomorrowland side of the park, what quick service is over there? That can handle that kind of volume.
Oh, no, nothing in terms of that volume, but I'm saying like you could
it's
easily...
not enough. Lunching pad is not enough. It ain't enough. They would have to build...
They would have to build more options.
They would have to build another quick service venue in Tomorrowland in order to be able to close Seaways.
But what I'm... the other big thing that...
I also fear, because I just looked up, because I wasn't sure, I just looked up when asbestos stopped being used during the 80s. When did Wonders of Life open?
89.
I wonder if the reason it's hanging around is because it's got asbestos in
Well,
it.
I mean, granted, they were getting ready to turn that into the Play Pavilion, but then that...
But it's... So, like, they can... It's only a problem when you tear down walls and expose those asbestos particles to the air. So, for example, if you utilize the same space and don't tear down walls in the Stitch venue and just use it as another theater, for example, there isn't a hazard. Right. It's when you tear down a wall and those particles become airborne.
But I think what Imagineering is thinking about with Stitch is they don't want to go back and do that type of a show again.
Right.
Because
it
didn't work.
No, and that's why it sits there as a cast member break room to this day. It truly is a nightmare to think about.
Yeah.
Doing something with that entire block right now in Tomorrowland. Right. It is truly a conundrum.
Right. But again, still in terms of capacity, it is a reflection on the rest of the park, though, too, because I've said this plenty of times, especially when we just close something for refurbishment. Look at Magic Kingdom right now. Big Thunder Mountain has been closed for over a year. Buzz has been closed for a few months, and they're still probably going to be closed for another few months.
The park's not doing bad, though.
But
I wonder if that's the reservation system working for them.
But do we think that they're adjusting park attendance numbers because of those two?
There haven't been many good-to-go days, though, have there?
No, there have been. It's usually in the middle of the week, and it's either been January or September.
Because good-to-go days means they're not throttling capacity.
Correct. Yeah. Because they know that, there aren't that many people coming in right now anyway based on the reservations and how many people have bought tickets. But yeah, my point is that,
they're all in line for Cali River Rapids. It's an 85-minute wait right now.
On New Year's Eve at Magic Kingdom, okay? New Year's Eve at Magic Kingdom, one of the busiest days of the year. Do we think they lowered the capacity of that park with two high-capacity attractions being closed for refurbishment?
Slightly.
I don't think so.
Slightly.
Because I never feel that. I never feel that with just the... you're talking about arguably maybe about 3,000 an hour worth of people, plus all the people that would have been in the lines for those.
But if...
That should have lowered your capacity number by about 6,000 people.
They might have done it.
I don't know.
What was the capacity on New Year's Eve?
I don't know. I mean...
Because when I worked there...
That's someone that gets paid a lot more than I do.
When I worked at Magic Kingdom pre-COVID, it was 100K. That was the number. That was the magic number at Magic.
But overall, you do see that. Epcot saw that with Test Track being closed for a year. You would just see these people being funneled out.
Well, that's because there's no rides at Epcot. Anyways.
True. Hollywood Studios also saw that too when Galaxy's Edge and Toy Story Land were being developed.
Because there's nothing to do.
There was nothing to do there.
You're also seeing it at Animal Kingdom right now because the wait times are really high because now Dinosaur's gone.
Because we talked about that. We talked about the fact that Dinosaur did almost 2,000 people an hour. That capacity is gone.
Look at the facts. I am always a fan of the facts, so we're going to look at the facts right now. The wait times at Animal Kingdom.
Because that's the thing. You've got
what time is it, Matt?
That's long gone.
Matt, what time is it?
It is almost 2:00.
Right, so it's about park hopping
He
time.
asked me this as he's looking at his phone that would have a clock on it.
That was for the conversation. It was for the podcast, okay? All right, so it is peak park hopping time.
Correct.
So people are leaving, people are coming in to Animal Kingdom right now. River Journey, 70 minutes. Flight of Passage, 65. Safaris, 55. Cali, 45. Everest, 40. Zootopia, 20.
So, I mean,
It's...
the people are still there to a point.
Yes, but...
Because that would be something I'd be very curious. Are they seeing a reduction in attendance with Dinosaur being closed?
Probably not.
Exactly. So if that's the case and the attendance is staying pretty steady, let's say hypothetically, the days before Dinosaur was closed, they were seeing, again, rough numbers, I don't know exact numbers here, 25,000 people on a given day. Okay? When Dinosaur closed, if they're not seeing a dramatic reduction in that number of 25,000, they're just being dispersed elsewhere through the park. There's probably a lot more people now in line for Flight of Passage, or Kilimanjaro for that matter, too. That lends me to also go into his other topic here that he talks about, which is the utilization of mobile orders now. Okay? Pre-COVID, the only way to get food at quick service restaurants was walking up to a register, waiting in line, and ordering your food there.
I love mobile ordering right now.
I do love it.
Do you know why?
Why?
Because Disney quick service restaurants has the dumbest, stupidest queue line setup.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Hold on.
Because half the times you get in line like, wait, am I behind the right person in line?
No, it's when you come out with a tray full of food, you got to shuffle your way in between a crowd of people.
Oh, yeah, especially like Columbia Harbor House. That is the worst one.
And it's so dumb.
Yeah.
It is the dumbest thing in the world that they haven't just totally blown those quick service serving areas up and started over.
Right.
I
Instead of like a cafeteria style setup like most restaurants are at Universal.
Dumbest thing in the world. So, oh, that was a rant. Where was I?
But anyway,
mobile ordering avoids that, and I love it.
We do avoid that with mobile ordering. However, I remember way back in the day. Remember Pizza Planet before Pizzerizza? Okay, I remember going there during lunch. When we would be traveling as a family, and you'd have to wait online, and that line was ridiculous. Ridiculous. I remember we'd have to wait online for like 25 minutes just to order our food, and then go get it and go sit down. So easily, we'd be in this restaurant for an hour, roughly, okay?
You know what I also remember?
Because of mobile order, that number is cut in half now. Because I could mobile order my stuff and have it ready for pickup as soon as I walk in through the doors. So that is effectively putting more people out onto the streets instead of in the restaurants where they've been sitting for a prolonged period of time.
I will say that
it does help the guest experience, though, because tables can be ready sooner, and you don't have to wait in lines. So it is helping the guest experience in that sense. However, is it helping the overall crowding in the park?
I think another problem is the Disney quick service lines, especially the older ones, like the Backlot Express, Columbia Harbor House, Pinocchio Village House, Pecos Bills, Casey Corner, right? They're notoriously slow. You'll have all these registers and all these queues, and the food is just not coming out to match that capacity.
Are you're talking if you were just ordering at the register back in the day, or are you talking?
Yeah, this is before mobile order, pre-mobile order.
Okay.
The serving line was still really slow.
Yeah, they just weren't pumping enough food out of the kitchen.
They didn't have the capacity to do it. So why did you have all these registers and queues?
Right. Maybe they should have taken out about 4 of the registers. Yeah, it would be
one queue set. No, but have one queue set up instead of that monstrosity of trying to sift through the crowd of people waiting in line at the registers when you're trying to exit with your tray full of food and drink. It just none of it makes sense.
Again, mobile ordering works but it does hurt the overall capacity of the park still because it's putting more people back out onto the streets for a longer period of time.
Sure.
Two more topics that he talks about: adultification, of how these parks are being adultified a lot more, mainly because of the additional push of more lounges and more alcohol offerings throughout the park. It is much more financially feasible for the company to be looking at putting more lounges in versus a refurbishment of a ride.
It's a moneymaker and it keeps the adults happy.
Correct. It is an instant moneymaker, whereas a refurbishment to a ride is more of an investment.
But if they're going to be making more money...
Correct. But look at the idea of we're refurbishing these attractions to bring up the quality, which in turn will make the guest happy, making them come back and spend more money continuously. Instead of just making sure that we get the money out of them right then and there. You know, that's an easy return on investment, but the true return on investment is the risk of, you know, let's take an attraction down for a refurbishment and fix it up and make it look nice.
If they put the money back into the parks, it's okay.
Right. But the problem is that it's more long-term instead of short-term.
They can do both.
They can do both. But, you know,
Tokyo does it.
He's talking about it in terms of a short-term investment instead of a long-term. Why put $80 million into fixing up Spaceship Earth when they could just build Geo 82 in half the amount of time and we're making bank there, you know? I see both sides of this, and it's a justified thing. But the biggest thing that he talks about is the addition of the influencer. Now, influencers, vloggers... I mean, look, I'm not that big of a vlogger. It's both of us, actually.
I hate streamers. Sorry. I can't stand streamers in the parks.
How many times do you go to these parks and you see these people live streaming, making TikToks, filming for YouTube and everything, showing you the perfect Disney day, creating this, as the guy mentions in his video, an artificial reality that doesn't exist.
See, I do agree with that.
I 100% agree with that. Pushing these people, and the company is guilty of this because the company piggybacks off of this to market new products. Take the Figment popcorn bucket, for example.
You know, this is how Chili's made a comeback, right?
Is it because they invested in the guy that did the Vine saying, "Hi, welcome to Chili's"?
No. Like a couple years ago, Chili's was, you know, in the crapper, right? And and they were on the verge of like going like Red Lobster was.
Right.
And then they were like, wait a minute, we have good deals. The food's decent because the food never was bad. I mean, it's Chili's, but like there's always something for everyone at Chili's. Chili's is like a gift from God. Anyways, so but you know, they were just getting overlooked. So what they did is like they started saying to some of these like foodies on TikTok, they were like, hey, we see you posted something good about our restaurant. Here's like $20 for a free meal.
It's called clever marketing.
No, and that's how they did that. They just piggybacked off of these people, and that's how they made their comeback. Because if you notice, there weren't ever commercials. It was all TikTok that made them have their comeback.
But it's showing them good quality. It's the TikTokers coming in saying, hey, look at this amazing food that I'm having at Chili's. And in turn, it lets the person viewing that TikTok say, hey, that looks like really good food. Hey, you want to go to Chili's tonight to a couple of friends? And they go and they have a great time, okay? TikTokers in Disney World is a completely different ballpark. Because, I was going to say, take the Figment popcorn bucket, for example. These TikTokers went out of their way to say, look at this amazing popcorn bucket. It looks so cool. It's all themed to Figment. And then it lets the viewers say, hey, look at that popcorn bucket. That's amazing. I want to get one.
7-hour wait.
And they go on opening day and it's a 7-hour wait
For a
a popcorn bucket. For a freaking popcorn bucket.
madness.
And it creates this pent-up demand. I don't know if you see it, but I see it with pins. Pins. Remember when pins just used to be like, a simple like trading thing that you could just do? Now it is insane. Do you see on Tuesdays that they do these pin drop Tuesdays, and people go nuts for these things to buy them all up because they hear about these pin releases every Tuesday and they say, I got to get my hands on this. Well, they don't paint the picture for you, though, that these pins are limited edition of 500. Oh, and there's a limit of 2 per pin. So you're 300 in line. The other 300 people in line are trying to get the same pin as you. Congratulations, you're not going to get the same pin.
I don't watch a lot of people's TikToks.
Yeah.
Actually, there's one person.
It's a social media void that I'm in.
There's one person's TikTok I watch, and it's because she's hilariously stupid. Anyways, but I won't name drop here, but I'll tell you all about it when we stop the recording. Hopefully in a few minutes because we gotta go.
I know we're running low on time. But they paint this artificial reality.
Yep.
That just doesn't exist, unfortunately. And
so that's something we want to give you all is just hopefully we're being a little bit honest.
Yes. And look,
whenever I decide to make content on TikTok again, which
but who knows what we can, but it's, and that's what I hope that you also see with this podcast as well, is that while we consider ourselves as influencers, I don't want to be the... I don't know. Well, I mean, look, any person that...
Well, you are because you're Darth Vader, blah, 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 blah.
Darth Vader 92, yes. But I don't want to go out there and just vlog and show you my experience and everything. I want to give you that experience. I want to show you our opinions. But don't also be showing the toxic positivity with it as well. Because that's another thing that he talks about. Is that... how many of these influencers that are out there just keep showing you the positivity, but they never show you the negativity?
So something we want to show you guys is like, for example, a ride POV. Mm-hmm. What did this ride look like on this date? A park POV. What did it look like walking around this park?
Right.
Like, because I would like to start, and I think when we get to a better point in our lives, I would like to start doing a ride POV of the week. Mm-hmm. Or something like that. Or, we've talked about maybe doing a live for a few hours at the parks, just walking around having a conversation, riding a few rides.
Right.
And I think an audio, definitely. I don't want to have a camera out and about doing that.
Correct.
But I think maybe if we got some meta glasses, that would be an option.
Yeah. Meta glasses, I think, can only buy you a couple of minutes, though. That's the thing.
But, we'll figure something out.
But the point is
but we want to show you the parks as they are.
As they are. We don't want to paint this positivity thing that everything is all hunky-dory at Walt Disney World or Universal or Disneyland or wherever we are. Yes, there are some positive things, but we can't also forget about the negative things. And that's what these influencers do a lot, is that they try and just post all the positivity because they want to remain on all these parks' good side. And don't get me wrong, I will tell you the good things too. I will show you all the good things.
If the parks do something good, I'll praise it.
As long as they are good things.
If the parks do something good, I'll praise it.
Yes. But I'll also call you out on the negative stuff too. I'm not afraid to say my views or your views, Matt, on these positive and negative things.
Neither is Stephen Colbert.
Neither is Stephen Colbert, yes. On that note, if you have the chance, go on to TikTok, look up this guy. Let me get the handle again. At AB and Explore. He does really paint a good picture on this. And I hope you can take that and see the parks just in a different light because of what he's saying there. I know, yes, we are running low on time. So we are going to end things right here.
Time to go.
However, I did forget to do this last week, but we're going to leave you with a little something extra at the end of this recording. When I was on the Disney Dream just a few weeks ago, we had the pleasure of sitting in on a piano guy in the Pink Club, and he was playing on the piano all these different Disney park songs and everything. But he ended his time in there playing Illuminations, Reflections of Earth, which I have recorded, and I will play for you as we close out this episode. So thank you all for listening. We'll be back with you again next time for another episode of Cue the Mats. And I leave you with this amazing piano player playing Illuminations, Reflections of Earth. Enjoy, everyone.